What's up, friendos, and welcome into Fantasy Pros. It's the Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I'm Chris Welsh, who you can find at Is It The Welsh for some Welsh-based stuff and some fantasy baseball, like today, where we're going to talk about the best draft targets at every position. These players are going to make your team better. Now, are these the best sleepers, the biggest breakouts? No, it's the best draft targets. These guys actually make it better for you to take some shots in your drafts. Now, there's a bit of value conversation in this because their production based off of what you're going to get out of them, that's what makes these guys the best draft targets. But obviously, you can decide for yourself, but I'm going to give you one at every single position, making your drafts easier. What's also making your drafts easier are the tools here at Fantasy Pros. Here's what you can do. Maybe you got a draft leading all the way up until like opening day. Plenty of people do that, and that's okay. We'll make it a little bit easier, even if you haven't prepped. Here's what you do. Sync your league. Just sync your league for absolutely free, and you can start mock drafting. And guess what? Maybe you didn't do any prep and your draft is in an hour. You could put down 5 to 6 mock drafts using the Draft Wizard software to get you prepped, and we can hold your hand along the entire process. It's actually like having me and Joe, or maybe the entire industry by your side. You can use a cheat sheet, which you could just put, let's say, Joe Pisapia and myself's ranks, or you can use the ECR, which is everybody. You're gonna get draft suggestions, you're gonna have the pick predictor, you'll have a breakdown after, you're gonna have tons of information to hook you up. And it's not done when the drafts are done, because we've got the My Playbook app for lineup assistant, waiver assistant, trade assistant, and more. It's the most powerful fantasy tools in the industry, and it's like having us by your side, because we are by your side. We'll be here. You're going to find out about all the great stuff that we're doing, whether it's shows or tools. So go over to fantasypros.com today. You can go to fantasypros.com/draftwizard to start drafting, and you can get in on My Playbook by downloading the app today. Check it out, My Playbook. All right, let's get to those names. Will they make your teams better? I sure think so, but I know we'll hear about it in the comments below. So here we go. It's time for the best draft targets at every position. Starting, yes, at catcher. We'll even do that. And coming in at the best draft target for catcher, Salvador Perez. Now, Salvi currently is going off as the 6th catcher off the board, according to Fantasy Pros ADP. Now, I've been preaching a lot about late catchers, and for good reason. The difference in production from like Will Smith down to Mitch Garver might really be minimal this year. Some of my favorite late catchers, though, have some theory involved behind them, like take Gabby Moreno being a favorite of mine, and I'm hoping that he continues what he did in the playoffs, that playoff trend. More of his hits start going over the wall, like in the playoffs. Now, Salvi is not theory. Salvador Perez just gets it done. He played 140 games last year between catching, DH, and he was playing some first base. Only 6 catchers last year played that many games, 140 or more. Of those 6, only 3 hit 20 or more home runs. And of those 3, only 2 hit 20 homers with a .250 or better batting average, Adley Rutschman and Salvador Perez. Overall, Perez was 3rd in home runs at catcher and 2nd in RBI. And according to ATC projections, he's projected to have the 2nd most homers at catcher and the only catcher to have 80 plus RBI. Adding in that corner infield eligibility this year could be a nice little addition. And really, if you don't want to invest early like I do, but you also don't want to wait and hope, Salvador Perez is the constant big bat in the middle of the lineup that you can bet on. With an ADP outside the top 125 and sometimes falling more, Salvador Perez, the best draft target at catcher. Now, the best first base target, Pete Alonso. His uniqueness in his stat line of position will go close to unmatched. There's some amazing options from Bryce Harper, who can bring out all 5 tools, to Vladimir Guerrero, who's a projections darling, and you can go much further down in a lot, again, coming back to theory of players we think that are going to bounce back and get solid production numbers overall. But none really come close to matching the pure power numbers of Matt Olson, except Pete Alonso. Alonso did only hit .217 this past year, but that came with a career low .205 BABIP. That is something that we can look at and see some positive regression. He's coming off of back-to-back 40 home run seasons. By the way, 40 homers after hitting a putrid 217. He had 110 RBIs in both seasons or more. And if we go over to ATC projections, they have got him for a big average bounce back, hitting 250, 41 homers, and the second most RBI to Matt Olson. Alonso's going off as the fourth first baseman and outside the top 20. So this is a bigger name guy, yes, but 40 home run hitters do not grow off of trees anymore. We can't grow them in a lab. We have to have them on the field. Pete Alonso is that bet, and even though that cost is high, he is the best draft target at first base. Moving over to second base, the best draft target is Gleyber Torres with the New York Yankees. Now, kind of like first base, the elite of the elite stand out at this position. Mookie Betts, Marcus Semien, Ozzie Albies. Those numbers are hard to repeat. You get big runs, big RBI, you get a handful of stolen bases, 25 plus homers, kind of at all those guys. You start moving down the list, there are some great stolen base options at second base, but Gleyber Torres put himself in a position after his big productive season in 2023 to be one of the best draft targets of 2024. We saw a massive decrease in his strikeout rate, dropping it down to 14%. 14.6% exactly. He hit 270 with 25 homers, scoring 90 runs, which is hard to do. But by the way, looking at the top of the list, only 6 or 7 total second basemen scored that many. He stole double-digit bases as well. He had a double-digit walk rate. Gleyber Torres completely changed his game. This year, ATC projections, as we're looking at them, has him as almost a 25-15 player. 269 batting average, which is near the tippy top, 24 homers, over 75 RBI, over 80 runs, and double-digit stolen bases. Yet, Gleyber Torres is the 8th second baseman, according to FantasyPros ADP going off the board right now. He is barely inside the top 100, and he is one of the best draft targets for the second base position, and you get a little bit of value there that you can take this year. Moving over to third base, the best draft target at the hot corner is Manny Machado, who is not the first, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth third baseman. According to ADP, no, he's the 6th third baseman going off the board. And in the overall ADP, the consensus ADP that you can find over on FantasyPros, go to fantasypros.com/MLB/ADP. It's got all the sites, ESPN, CBS, Yahoo. It'll tell you individually where that player is going, and you'll get the aggregate across the board. He's not even a top 50 overall player, Manny Machado. Now, Machado missed a little bit of time last year with an injury. That injury was carrying over after a surgery in spring training that had some people worried. Yet, coming off of last year, he still hit 30 homers with 91 RBI in under 140 games. A batting average around 258. This season, Manny Machado has been in spring training and is going to be good for opening day. There's no time missed, even if he's playing a little bit of a DH. According to ATC projections, he has the 4th highest projection of home runs at third base with 29, 80 runs in there, over 90 RBI, and really important, that batting average. Now, this team might be high flying a little bit. They might be running a little bit more, which could put better RBI opportunities in for Manny Machado. Now, the games are even projected a little bit lower where works in favor, but it's not often that you get the value here. And that's a kind of key thing. Obviously, like any of these positions, the top end players have some of the biggest output. So I would suggest you take Austin Riley, you take Rafael Devers, but after that, you take Jose Ramirez, obviously. But after that, things start to open up. You are taking some chances with a few players that are floating around there, but you're not with Manny Machado. You know exactly what you're getting. You're putting yourself in line for a close to 30 to 35 home run season, 100 RBI, bunch of runs, and a really good batting average on a team that's going to be high flying with Fernando Tatis Jr. and more in there. Outside the top 50, Manny Machado is one of the best draft targets at third base. With the best draft target at shortstop, we are sticking with the San Diego Padres because we're going to take a little look at Xander Bogaerts. The best draft target is kind of an open booked question because if you want to take some big chances, there's been a lot of positions we've talked about where you can take some big swings, some big hacks. Sometimes you're going to miss. Elly De La Cruz, third and short, interestingly we're talking about it, is a prime and perfect example of one of those players that's a big swing and miss. The return could be massive. Sometimes Elly tends to fall, but the negative outcome could be disastrous. So when we're talking about the best draft targets, we're also considering the return value. And that's why we're looking at Xander Bogaerts, whom is the 14th shortstop off the board according to FantasyPros ADP. Now, Xander Bogaerts in 2023 hit .285, one of the best batting average of qualified shortstops, with 19 homers, 19 stolen bases, so fell just shy of a 2020 season. The RBI total actually really fell, but you do have some players that are going to move guys like Xander and Manny Machado into the top end of the lineup, so you never have to worry about things mixing around and moving around. It's going to be Bogaerts, Tatis, Machado at all times. Projections, they see the same thing out of Xander Bogaerts. They see a low strikeout rate. They see a guy that continues to get on base, and they see a high batting average. In fact, Xander Bogaerts is projected to have a higher batting average than Fernando Tatis Jr. or Francisco Lindor. And though the stolen bases are ticked down a tiny bit, you have a legit shot at a 2020 season with a high batting average, good runs. You may suffer from some RBIs, but again, that's why we're picking up some of those players like Pete Alonso earlier. So we're getting our RBI totals, but Xander Bogaerts might be a legit 4-category player with an almost 100 ADP, and the risk is lower. He's kind of a poor man's Bo Bichette at this point with more stolen bases. Best target, shortstop, go look at Xander Bogaerts. Let's move over to the outfield. Michael Harris with the Atlanta Braves. Harris missed some time last season, playing only 138 games, still put up 20 stolen bases, 18 home runs, almost exactly like his Rookie of the Year campaign, just with a few more games. But there is still plenty of optimism as he increased his hard hit percentage. His max EV went up, his average EV went up. In fact, he hit .293. He had an expected batting average higher at .304. So why Michael Harris? Because Michael Harris is going at an overall ADP around 35, which is a third-round pick as the 11th outfielder. Michael Harris has first-round potential with his overall productions in one of the most powerful lineups in all of baseball. Projections, they tend to agree, though minimizing a little bit of the numbers, but you're getting 20-20 out of him. ATC, 22 homers, 24 stolen bases. In fact, you want to go look at the Bat X, 21 homers with 26 stolen bases. The batting average between 279, 280. You're going to score lots of runs. You're going to have RBI opportunities. Michael Harris is one of the best draft targets out there simply because he has first round upside. Moved over to starting pitcher, and we are going to go to a not top 10 starting pitcher, but a player that I think can be the number one overall. If you've heard me talk at all, you know this is George Kirby from the Seattle Mariners. George Kirby, one of the lowest walk rates in all of baseball, walking less than 1 per 9 innings, which was crazy. He had a low 3 ERA. Projections have him around a mid 3 ERA again. But George Kirby, with those low walk rates in one of the best pitching environments in baseball, has an opportunity to go 15 plus wins, has an opportunity to eat innings this year. At 190 this past season, he can go over 200, and simple changes away from becoming more of an elite strikeout option. Because of his floor, if those strikeouts do come up, that can get him to being one of the best pitchers in baseball. And if it doesn't, it's going to be hard for George Kirby to hurt your team, especially when the investment isn't in the top 10. We see pitchers dropping like flies. We see people pushing up strikeout pitchers more than ever before. Yet Kirby falls between pitcher 8 and pitcher 12, and he should be a main target to put in your staple of starting pitchers. Because again, you can take more risks with him later, or you can stack up some of these safer guys. And Kirby's going to get innings that are becoming fewer and fewer as seasons go on. He is one of the best starting pitch and draft targets out there. And finally, the best draft target as a closer, we're going over to the Los Angeles Dodgers, and we're looking at Evan Phillips. The closing market has changed just a tiny bit. Devin Williams kind of shook everything up as we had with Edwin Diaz the year before, having a big major injury and taking a top guy off the board. That's going to make people want to reach a little bit further. That's okay. You want to make sure you're invested in the closer market a little bit early, but Evan Phillips allows you to not have to invest a top 100 pick. And this is a guy that is in one of the best teams in all of baseball. The Dodgers are going to create so many opportunities. He has had support for the team. Plus, one of the perennial options has been Brusdar Graterol, who's currently hurt and dealing with a thing. Evan Phillips has a longer leash than we've seen in quite some time, with a really good strikeout rate and the support of the team. His ADP, 111 overall, according to FantasyPros ADP. Not a single site has him inside the top 100, and he is the 13th closer off the board. He is the best draft target at closer, whether you have already taken one of the uppers or he's where you start. Evan Phillips is your target. And there you go, friends. Those are the best draft targets at every single position, at least according to me. And I'd love to hear what you guys have to say by commenting below in the chat. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Hit those notifications so you are notified anytime we've got any videos, because guess what? Leading off is coming. The Monday through Friday live show. Joe Pisapia and myself every single day talking to you about everything going on in baseball, from who to pick up, the latest news, and even some of the betting market. So check it out today. You can by subscribing to the YouTube channel at youtube.com/FantasyPros MLB and put on those notifications. And guess what? We're giving away stuff too. So make sure you're making comments on all the videos below. You also can be a part of the community by going to FantasyPros.com/chat, and that'll get you in the free Discord. When we do leading off, we have a home run contest. Now that is a part of the premium side, but if you want to make home run calls to win prizes, you got to join the Discord. FantasyPros.com/chat. And even if you don't do that, we've got some awesome rooms. You can get access to Joe, myself, and the entire Fantasy Pros crew. So go and check it out today. We're here to make your life easier with tools and access and community. So thank you guys for hanging out with me. I hope all of these draft targets were helpful. You can find me on Twitter with any of your questions, and I'll talk to you next time right here on Fantasy Pros. Bye, friends.